Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. As you guys know, there's a whirlwind, a tornado surrounding Stephen A. Smith right now because of an exchange that took place 2 days ago on ESPN First Take with Monica McNutt, Shannon Sharpe, and Molly Karam. They were discussing Caitlin Clark. Started off about the cheap shot that she received during the game that she was playing. And then the conversation started to evolve into different areas. Now, I want to give you guys the basic crux of what they were discussing. I'm sure you guys know, but I want to distill it so we can relate it properly to what we're going to get into today. So basically, one, they were talking about whether or not that was a dirty play. They established that. Then they got into the aspect of what could be the motivation for some of these players to be singling her out. And that's where the conversation started to go in different directions, where Monica McNutt essentially took the standpoint of, this is just basic standard procedure for rookie hazing. And, these are just players being competitive. Stephen A. Smith looked at it at the standpoint that, hey, maybe there may be some jealousy that exists here from other players, and it's natural because given the fact that these players have been in the WNBA, laying the groundwork, to use his language, and then someone new comes in and just becomes the golden child, and it's the hottest thing and bringing in all these ratings. A natural tendency could be jealousy, right? Like, hey, what about us, right? So he spoke about it from that standpoint, and that's when they started to argue. And then towards the tail end of it, she then says, Stephen A. Smith, personally, you could have been doing a better job by covering the WNBA 3 years ago. And that's when, Stephen A. Smith just damn near fell out of his chair. Then he had to go do a response show. And then Monica McNutt went on Nightcap to kind of clarify her positions with Shannon Sharpe and Chad Johnson. So what happened this morning? I was just scrolling through the internet, and I came across a clip from the Dan Batard show with Stu Gatz and some other people. They have a lot of panelists on their show, so I didn't know who all the people were. But essentially what happened was they were reacting to the exchange that all of us are reacting to that took place between Stephen A. Smith and Monica McNutt. Now, here's what surprised me. In this soundbite that we're getting ready to play for you, the default position here was that Stephen A. Smith was wrong. The female contributor in this audio was also basically bashing men for not really knowing what the hell they're doing in terms of how they cover sports, women's sports. And then some of the some of her male counterparts were basically piling on, like, yeah, you're right. Me and men, we got to do better and blah, blah. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait a minute. This is exposing a disturbing dichotomy that's taking place in the United States right now. And this is something that I want to tackle in today's show. So what we want to do now is we want to play this audio for you guys. I want you guys to please listen to it in its entirety so you gain the full context of what we're going to talk about when we come back. So take a listen to them here.
We're going to discuss Caitlin Clark today. Oh. They were still talking about it on SportsCenter yesterday at like 5 o'clock. Granted, there's been another Fever game since this game happened.
It's unbelievable.
And they're still talking about just this foul getting upgraded to a flagrant one. And the only reason I wanted to bring it up is because yesterday Pat McAfee called Caitlin Clark a white on ESPN and then had to apologize for it. And Stephen A. Smith also embarrassed himself on First Take, arguing with Monica McNutt. So like two of ESPN's top talent just completely embarrassed themselves talking about women's sports, a league that they're partnered with at ESPN, and nothing's going to happen. Like, they're both just going to, it's fine, going to get away with it, and nothing really matters. And I find that, mind-boggling.
Wasn't Stephen A. Smith kind of doing stats, like we talk more about the WNBA than every other show? Like, who cares? But you're not talking about it well.
Well, Stephen A. also then doubled down on his podcast, which he basically said, you only know who Monica McNutt is because of me, because I put her on First Take.
I handpicked the roster. I handpicked the roster, and you...
Wow. He made it a lot worse. McAfee tried to argue that he said it complimentary in a strange defense for himself. He tried to say well, I meant it as a compliment, and then issued an apology, and then later on WWE Raw called a wrestler a white.
Jess,
son of a. Sorry.
Jess, it's funny because we've been discussing men's sports for 50 years now on the radio. 50 years, 40, 50 years, and we're still terrible at it. And so now we're discussing women's sports. And you expect, I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying it's going to take a minute. We're not doing it well. And I'm confused. Have men never watched women's sports before? Because Caitlin Clark came in with all this fanfare, deserved, by the way. But LeBron went through this. Michael Jordan went through it. Caleb Williams is about to go through it. People are going to take their shots. They're going to say, hey, we're pretty good over here as well. It's not just about Caitlin Clark. And she's going through some of those rookie lumps that all the great players go through. Women are competitive. Is that surprising to men?
I guess so. I mean, I'm with you, Stugatz. Like, I played sports growing up, and it was super physical. There would be fights sometimes. There would be, like, really intense competition, and that's part of any sport, and not just the WNBA. Any sport. I'm sure when you coached your daughter's lacrosse team and are watching her play at Northwestern, it's super. Lacrosse is one of the most physical sports there is. There's hard fouls all the time. It's just, like, very weird how this has become a conversation about, like, having to protect Caitlin Clark, who also dishes it out too. That's part of her game. That's a reason why people like her, is because she's so tough. She's a tough player in college, and she dished it out. And I'm not saying that Kennedy Carter should have done this. Obviously, I said yesterday it should have been called a flagrant on the spot, and I don't think this entire backlash happens if the refs just don't miss that call. But it's so weird how, like, mainstream sports has been covering this for like 3 days. And also, when it goes to Stephen A. Smith, all he had to do was say, like, you're right, like, we'll do better. And I think that whole conversation, like, doesn't happen. Like, it doesn't require a lot for men who have been covering sports for a long time that are now catching up to the popularity of women's sports, just to say, like, you're right, like, we're learning too. Like,
that's what we need to do.
Figure it out.
So you heard what was said there. Folks, there's a serious problem that exists in the United States. Speaking as an American who hasn't lived in the States for some years now, but will be returning next year, as someone that has been following the evolution of society in the United States over the last 3 to 5 years, I've noticed a plethora of disturbing trends. And one of them that I'm noticing is this new trend of essentially demonizing men. I've also noticed from afar that it is perfectly okay to scold men in public, trash them, and basically define how men should behave and act and think and speak. And everyone should be on board with it. Here's how I'm processing this entire situation here as it pertains to this audio. First of all, if you listen to how comfortable that female contributor was in terms of talking about men, it bothered me. Because number one, she was quite dismissive. Number two, she was painting with a broad brush, and this is something that Monica McNutt and others like a Kyrie champion were accusing Stephen A. Smith of. But they don't see it when they did it. The other thing I noticed was Stugatz and others who were then agreeing with her without any pushback. No one in that room had a varying opinion. No one. It's almost as if to say, whatever she says, we need to agree with it. That's a problem. It is a serious problem. And I don't believe you can build a healthy, thriving society where you prop up one group and you demonize the other group. In this case, we're talking about men. And some people these days seem to have a fetish for this. They really seem to get off on it. What I'm gaining from this entire situation is that it seems like everyone is trying to get Stephen A. Smith to the default position of he was wrong. He is wrong by simply using the word jealous or jealousy. And now they're trying to weaponize the word jealousy because it was attributed to women. But whenever we talk about male, what's the word? Is it toxic masculinity and all of that? There's no issue. Because after all, we're using it to describe a behavior and a sensibility. So when we talk about men in this way, no one should take any issue with it. And if you guys don't see a problem with that, you're part of the problem. I'm noticing this attack on men, and I think it's disgusting. Sorry to say, I'm not going to go. There are people that have commented on some of the shows that we produce, and they seem to be shocked. They're like in awe. Like, you're going to take this position? Yeah. Yeah, I think I am. Yeah, I think I don't want to be a part of this train of people now poo-pooing on men. I don't want to be a part of it. Do you know why? Because I'm a man. And I don't understand why I would take a position that would hurt me and others like me. Why would I do that? You certainly wouldn't. You certainly wouldn't. All of these women, Jamel Hill, Carrie Champion, Monica McNutt, coming after Stephen A. Smith. Carrie Champion, we produced a show about it yesterday talking about we don't like the word jealousy. Then she says in the same soundbite, could there be an element of jealousy? Well, sure. So what are you talking about? You're taking exception with what exactly? What is the thing you're actually disputing here? This is a sickening issue that exists in the United States. And I'm not coming off of my position. I don't like that it's become commonplace to bash men. I think it's disgusting. I think the people that are promoting this, something is wrong with you. And I think you guys are the ones that are destroying society. If I'm being honest with you, I think you people are the ones that are promoting families being ripped apart, because you have made it now your business to say that men are all bad and women are all good. And whatever women say is 100% correct. And whatever men say that women disagree with, they need to apologize for it. I'm going to call bullshit on all of that. And whoever this offends, you shall be offended. Because I'm not here to agree with these people. What are they talking about? They didn't cover sports the right way. Can we be specifically? What specifically are you referring to? What is it that he said that was wrong? What is it that he said that was wrong? What if Stephen A. Smith said, "Hey, listen, I don't think women should be talking about covering sports because they don't know how to approach men and deal with men." Then what would people be saying? He's a gatekeeper. He's trying to lock women out from gaining certain positions. The fact of the matter is, I've seen Stephen A. Smith feature a plethora of women on his show. I've seen it. I have seen it. We all have seen it. And that's the reason he was taken aback. The reason he brought up Jamel Hill and Monica, the reason he brought them up is because, listen, he has a major platform. It's been number one for the last 12 years, as he always says. So if he brings you on his show, he's giving you a benefit. This is the bloody reality. It ain't got nothing to do with no king, but it's the truth. Back in the day, it was the Oprah Winfrey show. If you had a book and Oprah put your book in the book club, you were basically going to be a bestseller. It is the bloody reality. It has nothing to do with the power of a man and uplift. It has nothing to do with that. It is the truth. When you go on a big platform, you will ultimately become elevated. That is the fact. And if it bothers you, then maybe you don't need to go on that platform. But this attack on men, I find it to be disgusting. I really, really do. And I think you people that promote this are the people that are destroying the United States. Yes, that's exactly what I believe. I believe if you're predisposed to always feel like men are wrong and men need to constantly apologize and then turn around and ask men to patronize the product, help you grow the brand, then something is wrong with you. Where do you get off attacking men like this and then at the very end ask them to help grow the brand of women's sports? Where do you get off? What type of entitlement is that? If men are so bad, then do it without them. The fact of the matter is the NBA subsidizes the WNBA. And the NBA is a league that is made up of men. So men can't be all that bad, can they? Is this what we're teaching our kids and all of this, that men are horrible? So you telling me as a father of a young daughter, I'm going to have some jackasses running around on TV that are going to try to demonize men to my daughter so she can look at people like me and say, oh, these people are useless? No, y'all are the problem. You guys are the problem. And I don't know what political group that is doing this, but whatever the political group is, I want no business to do with them. Absolutely none. But the people that have created this climate in the United States to make it okay to demonize and bash men on a daily basis, to the point where now you have men like these guys that want to the Dan LeBatard show, who showed absolutely zero testicular fortitude to push back on any of those points that lady was making, and thought that it was okay to just basically go along with whatever point she was making. You guys are part of the problem, and I called it out. And if you're going to unsubscribe from the platform, so bloody be it. I am not here to destroy any group, but as a man, I am offended. I am offended that these people are ganging up on Stephen A. Smith when he did nothing wrong. All he said was he perceived some jealousy. And when we talk about jealousy as it pertains to men, I never see any of you clowns jumping up and saying, well, you shouldn't say that about men. Men are much more complex than that. The issues with Shaq and Kobe, there was no jealousy. You need to take that back. Whenever we talk about the dichotomy between Kyrie Irving and LeBron James, we need to go back and relitigate and go through all of the words that we use. The fact of the matter is, you can trash men on television all day long and ain't nobody gonna say a mumbling word. And men, simping ass men, and some women will go along with it and laugh with it. When they were calling Russell Westbrook a blood-sucking vampire, wasn't Ramona Shelburne on that panel? Why didn't she stop the proceedings and say, wait a minute, this is a man with children, and y'all, we up here gonna let Dave McMenamin call him a blood-sucking vampire? They were all laughing. When Kendrick Perkins, who now all of a sudden wants to be the biggest simp in sports media, turns around and was saying Kyrie Irving was dumb, and if you put a bird in his brain and he flies around backwards, the bird will fly around backward. Now all of a sudden Kendrick Perkins wants to be sensitive about the language we use when we're describing figures in sports? Are you kidding me? What kind of pandering bull is this? And it's all aimed at destroying men, and I want no part of it. I want no part of it. The lot of you are a bunch of bloody hypocrites. A bunch of bloody hypocrites. You would throw your own gender into the trash just to sit up there and twerk it up for another that will still throw you in the trash. Shows the amount of self-respect you have for yourself. I'm absolutely disgusted by this. Totally. This attack on men, I want no part of it. And that's exactly how I feel. If you feel a type of way, unsubscribe. I'm deeply disturbed by what is going on. Deeply disturbed. And as they say, pull up the receipts. What am I talking about? Today, while producing content on the Stephen A. Smith drama that's surrounding him with Monica McNutt and all of that, I started to weigh in and really think about different issues. And then, as I'm going through the internet, what happens? As you search one video, another video gets recommended to you, another video gets recommended to you, old videos that you've seen in the past get recommended to you. As I'm going through the internet, I then see an old video from ESPN of our good friend Kendrick Perkins. Now, why are we talking about Kendrick Perkins right now? As you guys know, Kendrick Perkins recently weighed in on the drama that took place on ESPN First Take with Stephen A. Smith, Molly Karam, Shannon Sharp, and Monica McNutt. And they had a pretty heated conversation, a long conversation, a 40-minute segment. That later on that day, Kendrick Perkins went on ESPN. I forgot the show he went on, the particular show he was on, which is irrelevant. But anyway, he was on the network, and he put out a statement where he was basically trying to correct Stephen A. Smith for the language that he used on the show by saying that he should not have used the word jealous, and we need to be careful about the words we use when we're discussing women in sports. Now, for those of you who may not remember what Kendrick Perkins said, we want to quickly play a little bit of what he had to say here for you guys and then come back and continue on. Take a listen to what Kendrick Perkins had to say there.
But Perk, I really want to get your thoughts on this because I know we started off the show with your tweet saying, I got to stay out of the women's business. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's a few things. One, Shanae, you, Andrea, Monica, Malika, just at our network, y'all do an exceptional job for us covering the NBA, right? And now we're starting to see a lot of powerful men start to cover the WNBA, right? And there got to be some fairness in that. They should be able to voice their opinions, but they also got to be held they also have to be responsible to do their homework when covering the WNBA. And I'm looking at guys like Charles Barkley, LeBron James, Stephen A., Shannon Sharp, right? Why do I point out those four guys? You have to be careful about the words that you put out there. The word hating, the word jealous, those are words, those are triggering words for women, right? Like in anything. I've been married to one, okay? I've been married to a woman for going on 15 years. And those two words, hating, especially when you're talking about referring to another woman or other women, those are triggering words. So you have to do a better job with that. They have to do a better job with that because it's not hating and it's not jealousy, it's competition. Pat McAfee, I think he owes everyone an apology, especially Caitlin Clark. You cannot call her out of her name like that. You can't. No one could come to his defense, and it's unacceptable. At the end of the day, you have to respect the WNBA, respect the women that are playing, respect the women that are covering the game, and you have to make sure you do it in great fashion. If you're a man that's jumping into this to that atmosphere,
I really appreciate you, Perk.
So you heard him there, fantastic. So what happened? I'm going through the internet and I'm trying to look for a video of Kendrick Perkins where he was insulting Kyrie Irving because I can remember it, but I didn't remember the specifics of what he said. And then I came across the video that I was looking for. And in this soundbite, Mr. We need to be careful about the words that we use, Kendrick Perkins, was on ESPN where he basically said that if you put a bird in Kyrie Irving's head, the bird will start flying backwards. This same Kendrick Perkins. So what we want to do now is want to play exactly what Kendrick Perkins had to say about Kyrie Irving just 2 years ago, and then we're gonna come back and react this comment. Take a listen to Kendrick Perkins here.
When you're talking about Kyrie Irving, listen, Greeny. If you take Kyrie Irving's brain and put it in a bird right now, guess what that bird is going to do? Mm-hmm. It's going to fly backwards. Because Kyrie right now, he's confused. He's showing his lack of leadership. Here it is. Kyrie, you have been on these conference calls over the last 2 months. You're the vice president of the Players Association. You have been very involved in all this that has been taking place for us, whether or not we're going to play or not. And you have been on the phone and you have voted to play. And also we go back last week. Just last week, he was reaching out to the Players Association and the NBA about, players that are on the inactive list, can they travel to Orlando? That he said he wanted to go to Orlando and be part of the team and be with his team and be a leader. And all of a sudden, within the next 7 days, because from what I was told, the NBA said, no, you can't go because of the pandemic and coronavirus situation, that the bodies that are there are bodies that, that need to be people in place to, take part in action. And so, in my opinion, when you look at Kyrie, I'm okay with you changing your mind and having a different way of thinking and saying, you know what, we need to make a stance, and sit out. But what is the plan after that? He didn't have one. So once again, that showed his lack of leadership, Greeny. And guess what's been going on for the last 2 days in our world? 2 people have been lynched in the state of Texas. A young African-American young lady was killed in Akron, Ohio, behind a hate crime. And have that been highlighted like it should have been? No, because for the last 2 days, we have been talking about Kyrie Irving. So Kyrie Irving, right now, you are the distraction. You are the distractor. You distracting the whole situation. So it's crazy to me because, you come out and you do something separately without talking to your president, Chris Paul, or consulting with Michelle Roberts, and go off and do something totally different and get a group of guys together and say, let's sit out without a plan. It makes 0 sense, and I totally disagree with Kyrie Irving.
So you heard Kendrick Perkins. I'm sure some of you were stunned, especially those people that was jumping out the window, twerking it up all over the place, knocking over drinks, screaming and hollering about how wrong Stephen A. Smith was. I'm sure some of you jokers are surprised. The same Kendrick Perkins that was up there talking about we need to be careful about the language that we use is the same Kendrick Perkins you can hear in this audio saying if you put a bird in Kyrie Irving's brain, it would fly backwards. Let me ask you guys a question. What's more disrespectful, Stephen A. Smith using the word jealousy or what Kendrick Perkins just said there? No, you tell me. Let me tell you what made this clip even worse. Do you know what made this clip even worse? And we may link it in the description. That what made this clip worse was that sitting on the panel was who? Malika Andrews. And guess what Malika Andrews said after Kendrick Perkins said those things about Kyrie Irving? Not a mumbling word. Because it is commonplace at ESPN to constantly disrespect male athletes. It is basically the status quo. But now Kendrick Perkins wants to be sensitive and wants us to be sensitive about the words we use to describe women in sports. What a crock of you know what. This is the hypocrisy that we have to deal with. You see, yesterday, when we were touching on these topics, I was aware of this, but I didn't remember the specifics of it. So I couldn't bring it up in the moment. But while I was shooting today, I said, you know what, let me just do some quick research. And voila, this is what we have. So these are the people that we need to be taken seriously about how we cover sports. Malika Andrews was sitting right there on the panel. Why didn't she stand up and say, wait a minute, men are more complicated than that. Kyrie is a much more complicated individual than to just basically reduce him down to if you put a bird in his brain, he'll fly around. Why didn't anybody say anything? Nobody was moved because it's normal practice at ESPN. And none of the viewing public were bothered by it. But these are the same people that now all of a sudden want to go after Stephen A. Smith. You hypocrites. Y'all are a bunch of hypocrites. The lot of you that are now going after and attacking Stephen A. Smith. And the simps in the comments. Somebody said, why you got to use the word simp? If it offends you, it means it must somehow relate to you. Because any dude that's not a simp will not be bothered. So it must bother you because you must be one. You must be one because that's the only reason you're bothered by it. These are the people we need to be taken seriously. Are we being serious right now? Stephen A. Smith is being publicly flogged for what? And y'all know I'm not a fan of Stephen A. Smith at all, but we're going to call it down the line. ESPN has to be one of the biggest clown networks that we have going today. It just has to be. And I believe that ESPN is contributing to the deterioration of the public image of men in the United States. It sounds like a harsh comment, but it's not. It's actually not. It's actually the bloody reality. And ESPN is quick to make some of their employees go on television and apologize for standing up for men. Why ESPN does this, I don't know. I don't understand what their real agenda is by doing this. I don't understand why they make it their business to demonize male athletes. I don't know why they do this. Some of you are like, what are you talking about? As you guys know, there was a big brouhaha that took place on ESPN First Take, and everyone is reacting to it. Everyone and their grandmother is out there reacting to it, and it's brought out all the simps. The simps are in full. They're in full effect right now. I mean, they're patrolling the streets. They're blowing their horns. You know, they have their microphones. They just simping it up all over the place, twerking it up, just basically disturbing the peace, right? And some of them are taking issue with the position that I'm taking. Some of them are, but there are a lot of people that are supporting me, and I'm going to tell you why. Because a lot of people are seeing through the BS. At the heart of the issue that took place on ESPN First Take are two things. Number one, they were discussing the language that Stephen A. Smith used in terms of attributing the word jealousy to some of the NBA players, the WNBA players that were attacking or deemed to be attacking or singling out Caitlin Clark. And Monica McNutt said you shouldn't use that type of word, that language. Then Jemele Hill jumped out of the trees. Then former ESPN moderator, Kyrie Champion, jumped out to start attacking Stephen A. Smith. Then you had all of these different people coming. There have only been a few people that have actually had the courage to stand up and defend Stephen A. Smith. The only person I've heard thus far, and I could be wrong, is Jason Whitlock. Say whatever you will, but in this particular issue, he's been the only one. The rest of y'all have just been up there twerking it up and knocking over drinks all over the place. So what happened? At the end of their conversation, Monica McNutt then goes on to say, oh, and Stephen A. Smith, you could have been doing more. And I'm looking around, I'm like, Stephen A. Smith should have stood up and said, why should I have done more? For what reason exactly? Why is it my responsibility to promote the WNBA? Why don't they just create a fantastic product? Then I don't have to do it. But he would not dare say that. So what happened? Various people have been coming at Stephen A. Smith for the language that he used in terms of describing those women as jealous. From then, from that point forward, you've had basically people backpedaling. Shannon Sharp backpedaling when he brought Monica McNutt on the show. Everybody's backpedaling. But then I came across a pretty interesting clip this morning on ESPN First Take that exposes the chronic history of ESPN's attack against male athletes that has gone unchecked for years, that no one has said a mumbling word about, and that's what we want to get into today. So in today's audio, we want to play a clip from one of the people that jumped up and was accusing Stephen A. Smith of the language he used, which was Kendrick Perkins, that said, you need to be very careful of the language you use. Jealousy is a very strong word and you shouldn't use it. Today, we're going to play a clip from an ESPN clip 3 years ago of Kendrick Perkins, I believe Max Kellerman, and Stephen A. Smith on a panel where Kendrick Perkins was referring to Kyrie Irving, ESPN's favorite punching bag, as a jealous individual who was a hater of LeBron James. We're going to play that for you right now.
I'm not about to dive into how skilled Kyrie is because I have him as number 2 behind Kobe Bryant all time. We know this guy's talented. He's going to go down as one of the most skilled ever. And he was giving praise to Kevin Durant. But you could do that without taking shots at another player. And here's the truth of the matter. He is a bona fide hater. He is so jealous and he envied LeBron James that he can't even hide it no more. It's seeping through his pores. I wouldn't be surprised if Kyrie is sitting at home having watch parties, having a Dame Lillard jersey in the first round saying, come on, Dame, score 50, send him home. All of a sudden, LeBron James beat him. And then I wouldn't be surprised if he had a James Harden jersey for the next round. Come on, James, be the best scorer. Send him home. They can't guard you. Rooting for the Houston Rockets. All of a sudden, LeBron sends him home. And then he orders a Jamal Murray jersey. That's what Kyrie is doing right now. He's showing us his true colors. And he's probably on the bandwagon with the Heat. He got a Jimmy Butler jersey. He probably called KD. KD, hold on. They up 13. Don't drop that clip just yet. Ah, man, they blowing them out. Ah, they got hurt. They don't stand a chance. Go ahead and fire it away. Here it is. LeBron James sent Kyrie a life raft and a life jacket while he was drowning in Cleveland before he got there. He couldn't even sniff the playoffs, let alone win a championship, and the disrespect that you're showing to LeBron James when he only tried to show you the way. I was on those teams, 2 of them, well, 1 of them. Kyrie, LeBron tried to take you under his wing. He tried to show you the way. You said, hey, I'm tired of being under his shadows. You tried to go to Boston. You tried to lead that team. And what happened? It was a disaster. They couldn't wait for you to get out of the Beantown. All of a sudden, Brad Stevens was smiling from ear to ear. Now he had his team back. The fact of the matter is Kyrie can't stand it watching LeBron go for his 4th title with the Los Angeles Lakers and having a Laker fan base now, and he just hates it. Man, he's losing sleep at night because LeBron James is on the verge of winning his 4th title. He's a bona fide hater. He's jealous. He envies LeBron James, and there's no other way to put it. That's just the hardcore facts. He showed us his true colors, and it is what it is.
I'm not gonna call them names, and I'm not gonna go as far as to call them a hater. You know, the bottom line is that, again, I just think it was inappropriate for him to say it at this particular moment in time because you're doing it during the NBA Finals.
So you heard the clip. If you noticed at the very end, who was defending Kyrie Irving and saying we shouldn't use the word hater? Oh, it's Mr. Big Bad Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith was saying I wouldn't go as far as calling him a hater. But Kendrick Perkins was up there saying that Kyrie Irving is jealous of LeBron James. When they used the word jealous to refer to male athletes on ESPN, no one said anything. Where were all the people that are now coming up to attack Stephen A. Smith for the words that he used? Where were you guys? Where were you? Kerry Champion, where were you? Jamel Hill, where were you? Monica McNutt, where were you? All of these, the Dan Batard show, the panelists that were going after Stephen, where were you? All the people in the comment sections, where were you? You were nowhere to be found because it was commonplace at ESPN to demonize men. And all of you went along for the ride. But all of a sudden, when you had a moment to virtue signal, all of you stood up, and now all of a sudden, we want to talk about how dangerous of a word jealousy can be. And you wonder why the United States is in a mess that is in right now from a societal standpoint when we're talking about men vis-a-vis women. We wonder why. Do you see how all of you guys contributed to it? Do you see how you guys contributed to it? Do you see the blatant attacks that have been put towards men for years? But yet we're the evil ones. We're the bad apples in society. But meanwhile, you have had media constructs like ESPN that have made it their business to demonize male athletes for years. And when they choose one that they decide is going to be their punching bag, they never relent. I'll give you guys some examples. Kyrie Irving, Russell Westbrook. They determined that those guys were going to be the media dogs that they were going to flog every single day. When Skip Bayless and Mr. Shannon Sharp were on Undisputed making fun of Russell Westbrook for years and years and years and years, everybody went along with it. It got so bad that Russell Westbrook's wife had to basically tell them, stop calling my husband out of his name, and you clown ass was in the comment section talking about, oh, well, he didn't play well, and if he didn't play well, he deserves to be slandered. Oh, really now? Oh, really? Had that been a female athlete that they were talking about, they would have been fired. They would have been fired. But nevertheless, the Kerry champions of the world and all of these people have the goal to stand up and talk about, well, you know, women were much more complicated than that, and men, you need to learn how to speak about women in sports. The nerve of you, the hypocrisy of you, all of you played into it. But now all of a sudden you guys want to stand on a self-righteous ledge. All of a sudden you feel the righteous indignation to stand up for what's right and what's wrong, and we need to be careful about the language that we used. Who are you kidding? Who exactly are you kidding? That's why I be looking at y'all in those comment sections like, look at them. Who are we fooling here? You guys all went along for the ride. That it was perfectly okay to demonize men. And I have had some strong positions about male athletes like Ben Simmons and others, but I never was a hypocrite about it. To say, oh, well, we can get at Ben Simmons, but we cannot get at... Did you just not recently hear Stephen A. Smith call Kawhi Leonard the worst superstar in the history of sports? You telling me they've been no bad eggs in other sports that women played in? Do you think Stephen A. Smith would have the balls to stand up and say, this is one of the worst athletes that we've ever seen in sports history? Or that when Simone Biles dropped out of the Olympics, do you think any of them would have had the courage to say any kind of madness like that? But when Paul George said he had mental challenges that he was facing in the bubble, we all stood up, Shaq, the whole lot. Oh, you need to man up. You need to man up. Basically saying that there's a double standard. But now all of a sudden we need to be careful about words. It's a joke. And this has contributed to the deterioration of the public image of men in the United States. This right here and all of these jokers that have gone along with it. This is exactly what I feel about this issue. Y'all can miss me with it. You guys can miss me with your virtue signaling. I want no part of it. Y'all can go do it on y'all channels and act like y'all doing something, but I see through the game y'all playing. Y'all are picking and choosing. So yesterday I came across a clip/post image from LeBron James on my Instagram account. As you guys know, LeBron has been out of the public eye ever since the Lakers got eliminated some weeks ago. So we haven't heard much from LeBron since. But recently they published a show on the Mind the Game podcast with LeBron James and JJ Redick. So as I was going through my Instagram feed, I came across this picture of LeBron saying that Kyrie Irving is the most talented NBA player ever. And I was like, what? I'm like, excuse me? What? Kyrie Irving is the most talented NBA player ever? So I then went online to now look for the actual video of LeBron explaining his viewpoint to JJ Redick. And after listening to LeBron explain his point, I was left feeling even more confounded by the points that LeBron James was making by calling Kyrie Irving the most talented or gifted player he has ever seen. But before we even get into what LeBron James had to say, this video is brought to you by our brand new sponsor, Game Time, who's the official sponsor of today's show. So what we want to do now is we want to play exactly what LeBron James had to say to JJ Redick on the Mind the Game podcast. And then we're going to come back and react to what LeBron had to say. Take a listen to LeBron James here.
So with Kyrie, what is your favorite thing about Kyrie, the basketball player?
Listen, I will call Kyrie the wizard all the time. Like, all the time. Like, there was nothing on the basketball floor that Kyrie couldn't do. And sitting here watching it, you know, I'm playing like so fucking happy and so proud and to watch him and continue his growth and whatever the case may be. And at the same time, I'm so fucking mad at the same time that I am not his running mate anymore. So I'm like, I just remember those times. And to back to what you were saying, JJ, like to have a guy like Kyrie Irving as the ultimate wild card, that's like having it's like having a draw four in your hand every time someone deals you cards in Uno. Like every single time, because he has the ability to, like you said, I saw in game one, Western Conference Finals, game one. You know, I think up until that point, I don't know the stat because I'm not writing down the stats and I don't call the games like you guys, but I think Kyrie was only averaging like 8 points in the first half, like in the second round of the playoffs. You know, he was getting 16 to 20 in the second half, but in the first half of games, you know, it was like 6 to 8. Yeah, I don't know the exact number. It was 6 to 8. Yeah. And you're like, okay, you know you're gonna have Kyrie in the fourth, but I need you sometimes in the first half too, brother. But like what he did in game one, it was like at the Western Conference Finals, it was like that was like, oh shit, Dallas may be able to not only win the Western Conference Finals, they might be able to win the whole thing because of that wild card. I have so many words to praise Kyrie that I end up with absolutely none because he's the most gifted player the NBA has ever seen. He has the best gifts I've ever seen of any NBA player. I've never seen a guy in my NBA life that feels better at times shooting with his offhand than he does with his primary hand. If Kyrie's off in a game with his right hand, he will literally go exclusively to his left hand. I've never seen nothing like that.
So you heard what LeBron James had to say. Before producing this show, we actually put up a poll. And I wanted to ask the audience to get a sense of what they had to say in terms of who they believed is the most talented, NBA player of all time. So we put up a poll about, let me say 55 minutes ago, and we asked our audience the following question. Who's the most talented player ever? And in just about 55 minutes, 1,800 people voted on this poll. We gave them the options of Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Wilt Chamberlain. Of the 1,800 voters thus far, 64% of them voted for Michael Jordan. Coming in at number 2, 12% voted for Kobe Bryant. Then you had LeBron James and Kyrie Irving tied for the third spot with 9% each, and Wilt Chamberlain with 6% of the votes. LeBron James done lost his damn mind. He done lost his damn. LeBron James is very, very slick. You gotta give it up to LeBron. LeBron knows how to play the media game. He knows how to say this and not say that will get people talking. He knows. He's very, very clever when it comes to this. Look, first of all, let me just quickly say this. Who do I think are the most talented players in the NBA history? I think it's between LeBron James and Michael Jordan. But for LeBron in this case, he could not pick himself. So the obvious answer should have been Jordan. To say Kyrie Irving is more talented than LeBron James, Michael Jordan, or Kobe is laughable. It's actually laughable. To suggest Kyrie is more talented than LeBron is a joke. I think is a big fat joke. I think LeBron is way more talented than Kyrie. And also, I think LeBron hasn't even maximized his talent. If I'm being honest with you. His latent talent, I don't think he has. To suggest Kyrie is more talented than Michael Jordan, I think is a big crock of you-know-what. If I'm being honest with you. Jordan arguably is the most gifted athlete to ever play in the NBA. Arguably. Because Jordan had everything. We look at Kyrie Irving's ability to finish and we're amazed by it, especially with his ability to finish under the rim. I would make an argument that Jordan is a better finisher under the rim. Now, that may sound blasphemous to noobs. It would sound blasphemous to noobs and casuals. If you go watch Jordan's layup package and Jordan finishing around the rim, Jordan has had more spectacular finishes than Kyrie Irving. It's not, I don't think it's close. Jordan had better body control. And Jordan could finish with contact. Kyrie would elude contact, similarly to Kobe Bryant. Kyrie and Kobe elude contact. They go around contact, then they finish. Jordan would finish with contact, through contact, and pull off some of the most acrobatic shots you will ever see in your life. Jordan was just as good finishing with his right hand as he was with his left hand. Why? Because Jordan could also palm the ball, which is something Kyrie and Kobe cannot do. He could also palm the ball, so which means that he had an ability to do more things. He could improvise a lot better. Jordan, to me, is arguably the best finisher around the basket, finishing over contact and under contact. Go look at his highlights. Jordan had plays that you would sit down and you look with him and you said, but how did he just do that? And when you factor in his athleticism with his hang time, I think is a no-brainer. Jordan, to me, is a better finisher than Kyrie Irving. And I don't think it's controversial. Kyrie is the most gifted ball handler. Absolutely. The most gifted ball handler. The most gifted. But now we're getting into skill. And that is a skill that Kyrie developed. And in terms of skill, I would rank Kobe as a more skilled version of Kyrie Irving. I think Kobe's more skilled. Kobe could play angles just as well as Kyrie Irving. There's nothing that Kyrie Irving has done that I've not seen Kobe do. But there's shots that Kobe has made that I've never seen Kyrie Irving make. And Kobe out of the post is unmatched with his footwork as a post player. And his size helped him at being 6'6". But for LeBron to leave off Jordan, I think is a joke. Kyrie Irving is skilled, but let's cut it out.